Start it. The Employees Provident Fund scheme was introduced by an ordinance in 1952. Later, an enactment came, and in the early stages, the scheme was made applicable only to 6 selected industries which were supposed to have the capacity to pay. Now, of course, more than 60 industries are covered by the Employees Provident Fund scheme, but the Act gives the appropriate government certain powers to exempt certain factories from the operation of the Employees Provident Fund scheme. Thus, the employees in a particular industry are governed by more than one Provident Fund scheme. As is obvious, frequent changes in the place of employment take place, and a worker who is today employed in an exempted factory may in due course join a factory where the Employees Provident Fund scheme under the Act is applicable. Then he faces a lot of difficulties in the transfer of his funds from the exempted scheme to the statutory scheme. It is therefore time that the government did away with exemptions altogether. Then, Mr. Vice Chairman, the need for a comprehensive social security scheme is well accepted in the country. The Government of India some 10 years back appointed a working group headed by Mr. V.K.R. Menon, Director of the Regional Office of the ILO in Delhi. That working group went round the country and produced a comprehensive scheme for social security, and the recommendation was that the employees' state insurance and the employees' provident fund schemes should be merged into one social security scheme, which would also be able to report was submitted, and though the government appears to have accepted the recommendation in principle, nothing has been done in that matter. That is probably due to the fact that a number of provident fund schemes are exempted from the operation of the statutory scheme. How will the government merge these exempted schemes into the social security scheme? So, if the government are serious about merging the employees' state insurance and the employees' provident fund schemes, it is time that they did away with exemptions. It appears that the Government of India have granted exemptions under the law. They had no power to do so. That is a wrong trend, and I must voice my protest against this. Then, Mr. Vice Chairman, the management of the Employees Provident Fund by the trustees needs a great deal of improvement. Now, under this scheme, some 30 lakh workers contribute. Some of them contribute 6% of their meager wages, others contribute 8%. The trustees are so callous that they do not see to it that all the deductions from the workers' meager wages are deposited with the proper authorities in time. The result is that lakhs and lakhs of rupees deducted from the workers' wages as their contribution to the provident fund schemes are not deposited with the provident fund authorities or appropriate authorities. The employers are allowed to convert the workers' savings into their working capital. It is the business of the administration, it is the business of the trustees to see that every rupee deducted from the workers is deposited with the appropriate authorities within the time limit laid down under the rules. What we find is that there are penal provisions, but those penal provisions are not enforced and employers are allowed to convert workers' savings into their capital. That is highly undesirable. It is also harmful to the workers because unless the money is deposited with the Provident Fund authorities, workers' accounts do not show the contributions deducted from them. The result is that in some cases where the regional directors of the Provident Fund scheme are honest and straightforward, they issue to the workers their account slips without showing the amount due from the employers. The worker who has contributed hundreds of rupees finds that the account slips issued by the Provident Fund authorities show only a meager deposit in his name, and he gets confused, agitated and discontented, and his heart is not in the work because the money deducted from his wages for his old age is allowed to remain with the employers, and the Provident Fund accounts do not give him credit for that sum. Where the regional directors and regional accounting officers are not so honest, they do not issue account slips to workers for years together, and the worker is kept in the dark about the size of his amount in his Provident Fund merely because the employer has not contributed the worker's share and his own share is with the Provident Fund authorities. All this goes on, but the Provident Fund authorities or the government does not prosecute or does not send to jail the defaulting employers. The Provident Fund scheme was introduced to give the worker a sense of security, a sense of feeling that something is being collected for his old age and his children. When we analyzed why the coir industry in the country was not further developing, we found that unless we produced better goods for export, there could be no further improvement. This is an industry in which 92% of the products are exported and the domestic consumption by nature of things is of a limited quantity. So when market surveys of foreign countries were made, we were convinced that mechanization as a part of this industry should be introduced so that in a gradual manner we could produce better goods acceptable to the sophisticated markets of the world. We had a tripartite meeting of all the interests in Kerala, particularly the government of Kerala. The representatives of labor and industry engaged in coir and the central government, and it was felt that gradual mechanization, particularly of the weaving sector and the finishing sector, would gradually assist the further development and progress of this industry. Particularly in Kerala, this is the basic industry giving employment to more than nearly 1 million people. We therefore decided that the coir board that the government of India has set up should endeavor to assist the people to establish such factories and also establish factories itself if entrepreneurs वर नॉट इजीली फोर्थकमिंग। 1050 वर्ड है और 100 की स्पीड है। 175 और 176 से बोला गया है, 90 80 पे लिखेंगे। केसी सोर्स है।